Brackenfur is a golden brown tabby tom with amber eyes. He was a kit of Frostfur alongside Cinderkit, Brightkit, and Thornkit. While they were young, Brokenstar of ShadowClan was apprenticing kits at an early age, and one of his followers stole Brackenkit and his siblings and brought them to the ShadowClan camp. They were rescued by a ThunderClan patrol without any major injuries. Before the kits had reached 6 moons, Bluestar and Frostfur decided that 2 of them would be apprenticed early. Brackenpaw was one of the ones chosen, and Graystripe was picked as his mentor, while his sister Cinderpaw was apprenticed to Fireheart. Compared to his sister, Brackenpaw was calm and obedient. Not far into their apprenticeship, Cinderpaw was badly injured when she was hit on the Thunderpath, and Brackenpaw was left to train on his own. His first serious mission had him face the possibility of this happening to him, too. He had to catch a patrol that was going to cross the Thunderpath before they attacked ShadowClan, but he arrived fast enough to stop them before they had even crossed. He was proud of his littermate when she was eventually chosen as the next Medicine Cat apprentice. Brackenpaw was loyal to his mentor, but Graystripe began to neglect his training in favor of spending time with the secret mate, Silverstream. Brackenpaw began to worry that the newer apprentices would be made warriors before him, but Fireheart more or less took over his training in Graystripe's absence. While hunting with Fireheart one day, Brackenpaw discovered WindClan and ShadowClan on their way to attack ThunderClan's camp. What they wanted was to kill Brokentail, but Bluestar had ordered him to be kept alive, so Brackenpaw defended him, even fighting the ShadowClan leader Nightstar at one point. He was made a warrior after the battle with the new name Brackenfur, and spent his vigil thinking about how proud he was, how the clan supported him, and how StarClan was watching over him. He was just as dependable as a warrior as he was as an apprentice, often being assigned tasks by Fireheart, who was now the clan deputy. Brackenfur began to hope that he'd be assigned his first apprentice soon, and he kept an eye on Speckletail's kit, Snowkit, thinking that perhaps he'd be able to mentor him. While doing so, he noticed that the kit behaved differently than the others, and it eventually led to the clan discovering that Snowkit was deaf. Brackenfur still hoped that he'd be able to do something to help, but the kit was carried away by a hawk, and though Brackenfur chased after them, he wasn't able to save Snowkit. Due to Brackenfur's recent experience with Snowkit, and the fact that he was afraid to make Sandstorm the mentor of one of Tigerstar's kits, Fireheart decided that Brackenfur would mentor Tigerstar's daughter, Tawnypaw. He was a good mentor who cared for her, and he was frantic when it seemed that she had vanished, thinking that Tigerstar had kidnapped her. But it turned out she had left willingly, feeling that ThunderClan wasn't where she belonged. She stayed even after Tigerstar and Scourge had been defeated. While Firestar was away on a quest not long afterward, Brackenfur found himself at odds with his former mentor, Graystripe, who was the deputy, and therefore was acting leader for the time being. BloodClan had started causing trouble for ThunderClan again, but one of them, a she-cat named Gremlin, had offered to help ThunderClan as long as she and her brother were offered a place in the clan afterward. Graystripe ordered Brackenfur to keep her suggestion a secret until he had told the clan. Brackenfur did so, but he didn't trust the BloodClan cat, and he was furious that Graystripe would put the clan at risk by listening to her. He agreed to abide by Graystripe's decision, however, and afterward, when it turned out she was trustworthy after all, he apologized and admitted that Graystripe had been right. ThunderClan weren't the only ones being troubled by BloodClan around this time. A group of them made their way to Ravenpaw and Barley's barn and took it from the 2 loners, and Brackenfur was on the patrol that helped drive the BloodClan cats away. He got a second chance to be a mentor when his sister Brightheart's kit, Whitepaw, was apprenticed. She was eager to learn, and he was proud of her and happy to mentor her. During her apprenticeship, 2 legs began to encroach on the clan's territories, and prey began to grow scarce. Whitepaw's parents disappeared, and Brackenfur worried about the fact that she wanted to go off on her own to find them. Cloudtail and Brightheart were rescued by a patrol, but Graystripe was captured by 2 legs during their escape. His deputy duties were divided among the senior warriors, and Brackenfur was given the responsibility of organizing hunting patrols. Some of the cats suggested that he might make a good deputy, but Firestar refused to hear of it while there was no evidence that Graystripe was dead. The clans made the decision to leave what was left of the forest and make their way to a new home around a lake. While they were in the mountains, an eagle attempted to carry away one of the Shadow Clan kits, but Brackenfur leapt into the air and made it drop the kit. He hadn't been able to save Snowkit all those moons ago, but now he had saved Marshkit. Around this time, Brackenfur fell in love with Sorreltail, and it wasn't long before the two of them were expecting kits. The kits ended up coming at the worst possible time, when a horde of badgers attacked the ThunderClan camp. Brackenfur brought Cinderpelt to the nursery and did his best to guard his mate and their new kits. He wasn't able to keep the badgers away completely, and Cinderpelt died while Brackenfur was injured. But all four of their kits survived their birth. Honeykit, Poppykit, Molekit, and Cinderkit, named for the medicine cat they had given up her life. Firestar finally had to accept that it was long enough that Graystripe likely wasn't coming back, and he almost named Brackenfur deputy until Leafpool received a sign from StarClan about Bramblestar. During the clan meeting afterward, Brackenfur himself commented on Leafpool's honesty and said that he thought that Bramblestar would be a great deputy. He later told Leafpool that he'd felt the clan was vulnerable while they'd had no deputy, and that he was glad Leafpool herself hadn't decided to leave with Crowfeather, since a clan without a medicine cat might not survive. Not long after this, Brackenfur's apprentice Whitepaw finally became a warrior, and Brackenfur and Sorreltail's kits became apprentices, but one of them, Molepaw, died of green cough. Bramblestar and Squirrelflight had kits, or the clan assumed they were theirs at least, and one of them, Jakekit, appreciated that Brackenfur was one of the few cats in the clan who didn't treat him differently for being blind. Brackenfur would end up being assigned as the mentor of one of Jakekit's littermates after Hollypaw decided that she no longer wanted to train as a medicine cat. He expected Hollypaw to work hard to catch up with her denmates, and she did. He did get impatient with her at times when she disobeyed him, but he never lost his temper with her. Brackenfur's daughter Cinderpaw injured her hind leg, similarly to how her namesake Cinderpelt once had. He worried about her injury, and her sisters Honeyfern and Poppyfrost were made warriors ahead of her, but she made a full recovery and became a warrior not long afterward, alongside Brackenfur's apprentice Hollyleaf. While Sol was manipulating ShadowClan to reject the warrior code, Tawnypelt came to ThunderClan with her 3 kits. Brackenfur was assigned as Tigerpaw's mentor while they stayed with them, but the ShadowClan cats returned to their own clan when things settled down. During ThunderClan's battle with Greencough afterward, Brackenfur was put in charge of patching den walls, since he was known to be good at it, and through the coming seasons, Firestar would continue to assign Dustpelt and Brackenfur whenever any den building was required. The two of them became good friends. All of ThunderClan was shocked when the warrior Ashfur was found dead. Brackenfur couldn't believe that it would have been a ThunderClan cat, and he didn't want to accuse WindClan of murder without more evidence. The clan came to suspect that the rogue Soul had something to do with it, and Brackenfur was part of the patrol that found him and brought him back to ThunderClan. Upon their return, since Whitewing was close to kidding, Brackenfur took over the training of Whitewing's apprentice, Icepaw. He and Sorreltail soon had to deal with the grief of losing another kit. Honeyfern died saving Briarkit from an adder. Although Brackenfur himself was grieving, he did his best to comfort his mate, as well as Honeyfern's mate, Berrynose. Seasons passed. The spirits of the Dark Forest began to work against the living clans, but Lionblaze was certain that Brackenfur wasn't one of their recruits, since he couldn't think of any weaknesses in him that they might exploit. It was also around this time that Hollyleaf returned to ThunderClan after being thought dead, and she trained her clanmates to fight in the tunnels. Brackenfur in particular found the tunnels fascinating, and he became the best cat at fighting underground. Also around this time, Sorreltail and Brackenfur had a second litter of kits, Lilykit and Seedkit. Sorreltail did her best to defend their young daughters during the battle against the Dark Forest, but she is badly injured in the fight, and insisted on caring for them before getting her wounds treated. Brackenfur found her dead after the battle had ended. The kits at least were alive, but it was hard for him to move on after the love of his life was gone, and he often visited her grave. Everything around him reminded him of her, but he knew that she was watching over their family from StarClan, and that one day he'd see her again. Sadly, he would lose another of his family members just a few moons later, when the camp flooded and Seedpaw drowned. He also had to organize the rebuilding of the dens on his own after his friend Dustpelt was killed by a badger. It was then that Bramblestar began to notice how old Brackenfur was looking. Brackenfur mentored one more apprentice, his granddaughter Sorrelstripe. Eventually, after SkyClan had arrived around the lake, he retired to the Elder's Den to join his former mentor Graystripe, his sister Brightheart, and her mate Cloudtail. They would often tell stories about their youth back in the old forest. After Bramblestar's body was taken over by an imposter, Graystripe spoke to Brackenfur about how the clan felt different. Brackenfur reassured him that ThunderClan would always be their clan, and that their clanmates would need their wisdom now more than ever. Things have changed drastically during Brackenfur's life, and he's dealt with a lot of sorrow, but he's always been one of the most solid, dependable members of ThunderClan.